Hello, and welcome to episode number 21 of the Holistic Lifestyle Guide podcast. This episode is called The Difference Between Spirituality and Religion. So, if you are spiritual but not religious, you are part of a growing demographic of people. Or maybe you are still not sure what the difference is between spirituality and religion. So, I'm going to talk about that in this episode. And spirituality is one of my favorite subjects. So, I'm going to have a lot of fun recording this one. So, many people confuse spirituality with religion, and they believe that spiritual connection can only come from having religious beliefs or belonging to a religion. However, spirituality, it can come from more than being in a religion. Some people do seek religion for this, but spirituality can also be achieved without belonging to a religion. I like to think of the main difference between religion and spirituality being mostly that religion is given to you and spirituality is created from within you. So that's something that I've heard many times, and I agree with it, because religion was started with usually centers around the one person or one belief or something like that, and then there's a group of people that all believe it, and then they pass it down to their children, and it goes on like that. But spirituality is something that someone finds on their own as a way of discovering themselves, as a way of connecting with themselves, as a way of feeling like you're part of the world and the universe, being connected to everything that exists. And that's a very personal thing. So that's another difference, is religion is not personal. You're given a set of things to listen to, and spirituality is you're listening to what you want. You're creating it yourself. So I'm going to go into all of the aspects of religion first, and then I will talk about the aspects of spirituality a little more in detail. So, the aspects of religion. Like I said, you are given a set of beliefs, rules, and laws, and these come from other teachers, books, and people. Most of these religions are based on traditions that are centuries old and ancient texts that have been passed down. Most religions don't really rely on people's faith to keep them alive they do rely, I'm sorry. They rely on people's faith to keep them alive, because you must have faith that your chosen teaching is the correct one, because you have no direct experience with whoever or whatever created that religion. With religion, the higher power is either a deity, a person who once existed, or a fictional character that embodies the set of beliefs for that religion. So religion also involves rites of passage that you must complete, such as baptism, communion, confirmation, bar mitzvah, going on a pilgrimage, etc. So the aspects of spirituality, as you'll see, are going to be very different. With spirituality, you are the one creating your own internal set of beliefs, rules, and laws, if you even have rules and laws, because obviously if it's you creating it, why would you limit yourself to rules and laws? You're just going to, and really spirituality is about getting to know yourself and getting to know the universe and being connected. So it doesn't have anything to do with rules and laws. The wisdom comes from within you through your personal experiences. And this is why many people don't really achieve spirituality until they're older, because when you're younger, you're still under the influence of your parents and your friends and your community a lot more than you are when you're older. Plus, when you're younger, you don't really have the experience. You just have to have the faith, and you just have to believe that what you're taught is correct. And then as you grow older, that's when your personal experiences don't align with those beliefs and rules and laws, and then that's when you start to really get to know yourself. I like to think that this happens in midlife usually, or maybe a little sooner. Sometimes people as young as your 30s. Usually this is a general time frame. However, of course, this can happen sooner. It's just not common. So like midlife would be around 40s or 50s, when people start to realize that they're really getting to know themselves, and they don't care about what people think of them, and they don't really need to fit into a box anymore. So, when you are spiritual but not religious, in a sense, you are creating your own personal religion that is unique to you. It is made up of the beliefs that you personally have chosen and the experiences that you've had. In spirituality, the higher power is usually your own higher self, nature, or source energy. This is usually not a person, not a character, not a deity. So there's many spiritual people who believe that we are all one mind. We are fragments of one living thing in the universe, and that we are temporarily taking form in the human body. In this sense, we are all God because we are one. We are everything that exists. So, in spirituality, your journey is unique and it's determined by you alone. There are no rites of passage other than any that you choose to partake in, and not anything that has to be done at a certain age. So, I kind of covered the main points. I'm going to repeat that I think that the main difference between these two things is where the wisdom comes from. It either comes from outside of yourself or within. So if you lean towards the spirituality end of the spectrum, which you most likely are since you're listening to this podcast, then you have gone within and know what it means to be your own guru. That is a phrase that I like to say a lot because I believe we should all be our own gurus. And that isn't meant to be a lot of people think the word guru is something negative. But when I say guru, I'm meaning it to be just a keeper of wisdom, a keeper of experiences, the soul that's inside you that knows things. Everybody has that aspect of themselves that just knows without having to be taught things, just things that you feel, things that come up when you're meditating. And that's what I like to call the higher self. And that information comes from within. If something comes from within and it's coming from a good place, like your heart, not your ego or your mind, then it is, I believe that is pure. And another thing I wanted to mention about spirituality, like I said, it's a journey of getting to know yourself. And I've mentioned this before in some of my blog posts about spirituality being letting go of all the things that are not you. So, and this brings me to the word enlightenment. A lot of people think enlightenment is where you practice spiritual things so much that you just become a perfect person and you know more than everybody else. And that's coming from ego. So when it comes to enlightenment, it really means you are lightening the load of all of the things that are not you. And that's why, like I said, this is a wisdom that comes from experience and just over time. Like this is where you reach a point in the middle of your life. Of course, this can vary, like I said, but it's usually when people are older that they realize, I don't need to be taught a bunch of rules on how to live my life, and I don't need to worship a deity or a person that used to exist. I can feel that divinity within myself, and that's what the word wisdom kind of means. It means a culmination of the information, the knowledge, and the experience over a lifetime. And that's why they say older people are wise, because they've lived through it. They've lived through everything, and they have a different perspective for sure compared to younger people. So when I say enlightenment, again, that's letting go of all the things that aren't you. And what that is I talked about this in another one of my videos about the effects of a spiritual awakening. And I will be talking about that even more in depth in a future podcast episode. But for now, I'll just say there's a lot of things that change in your life when you go through a spiritual awakening. And that's how you know that you truly are spiritual, when you feel it. And you're not just acting it. And there's a lot of people out there that claim they're spiritual, but they don't live according to the values of spirituality. And that would be love and respect to all humans, animals, plants, trees, the universe, nature, the environment, all of those things. You need to have a respect and a reverence and an honor for these things because we are it. We are all one living entity that is just it's all of existence. And if you don't feel the connection to that, then you that will come out in your daily life, and then you can't go around saying that you're spiritual if you treat people like crap, but then you have crystals laying around your room. It's you can't just say you're spiritual because you are into spiritual things. So, that's what enlightenment is. It's letting go of all of the things that have been in place in your life that have been kind of I, I'm going to use the word brainwashing, but it's not quite so harsh. It's more like, it's not a negative thing on the surface, but in the end, it does end up being a negative thing that we are raised into certain belief systems. And that's how we've been conditioned. That's a better word to use, is conditioned, not so much brainwashed, because our parents meant well. They did not mean to brainwash us. They just conditioned us to live the way that they wanted us to live, because when you're a child, of course, you don't know what to do. So this is why enlightenment is something that usually comes when you're older, because you've finally learned who you are. You finally learned the nature of the universe, and you really can feel connected to it, and you really feel that it's pure, and there is no fakeness. There is no being a different person to pretend that you're, fitting in with this group of people. There is no following rules so that for any particular reason. You just have this confidence and this, I want to say the word autonomy, but I think that that's wrong. I'm not quite sure what the word autonomy means. I think it means that you are your own, sovereign person. I think that's what I'm trying to think of. You are sovereign, which means that you don't need to be told what to believe. You feel what you are, and that is what you believe. So the more enlightened you get, the more you are connected with all that is, and the less you are identifying with the human body and material things. This is something I've never gone this deep into before. And I knew this would happen in this episode because I feel very strongly about the spiritual side of holistic health. And I used to be religious. Well, I was never religious. I was raised in religion. And I think that might have a lot to do with why I feel the way I do about spirituality. I always felt this connection with metaphysical things, things that weren't material. And I knew that, the body can't be all there is. This cannot be all there is in life. What would be the point of life if you, in the blink of an eye, you came and went, and there's more. And I just have always felt that. And so that's why I've been drawn to spirituality my whole life. And that's why I created my business, because like I just said about the human body, we are not just a body, but we need to embrace that aspect of ourselves because we are human at this time. And that's why physical, mental, and spiritual health all need to be together as we are humans, even though, we're really just a soul, or we really are a soul, not just because, I just love spirituality so much. And that's why I kind of have tended to focus a little more on that than the physical aspects of holistic health. And that's why I'm kind of going on and on about some different tangents in this episode, because this is my favorite side of holistic health. Because I think, here's another thing that I wanted to mention is, I think, and I've heard this from many people, and I believe this is true, that the more spiritual you are, well, maybe that's a bad way to put it. I would say more that when you are in touch with the universe, with your higher self, with nature, you're going to be healthier. You're going to be happier. And that's my entire point. If I could sum up my entire point of everything I talk about, it's the fact that you will be healthier, you will be happier if you pay attention to all of the aspects of yourself, and that spirituality is a huge part of that. I, in the past, have talked a lot about physical health being, the first thing you should focus on and the main thing you should focus on. But the more that I go on, I actually think spirituality is just as important as physical. I think it's because, like I said, you have to feel that connection. I heard this once that people that get cancer and diseases and illnesses have less of a connection with the universe and nature and themselves than other people. And that makes total sense to me. I really believe that if you feel that connection, if you can, align with all that is and respect it and honor it, then you're going to be healthier. You're going to be happier. You're going to understand what the meaning of life is, and you're not going to have struggles. I firmly believe that. So that's one of the reasons why I've kind of made a shift in my business, leaning a little bit more towards spirituality, not so much physical health, because if some of you don't know, I have never been to college for learning how, the human body works. I've taken courses. I've taken a lot of courses online about natural health and stuff like that, like holistic health, but I've never actually, I never trained to be a doctor. So I cannot claim that I am the expert on physical health. However, I have learned over my years of studying this stuff that it's really about the basics. And that's why I talk about the basics so much. So you don't have to focus so much on the health. You just need to focus equally on physical, mental, and spiritual. And as I'm learning, like I said, spirituality is so important. It's probably equally as important as physical health, I would say, because once you have if you're eating correctly, if you're sleeping correctly, if you're getting enough movement, if you're getting sunlight, those are the main four things that will take care of your physical health. And then if you have the spiritual stuff down, I think that's where most of the battle comes from. Those two things. Once you've got those down, I think, then the mental health will fall into place. So now I'm just taking a breath and trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to mention in this episode while I'm recording here. I did cover most of it though. And I actually do have a blog post about this, but I will link to that in the show notes. However, I did go off a lot on many different things that weren't in the blog post. And like I said, I do have a blog post about spiritual awakening particularly, and I will be making a separate podcast episode about that, because that is another subject that goes off deeper into spiritual awakening, spirituality. So I guess I will save all the rest of it for that one, because that's going to be a good one. So on that note, I will end this, and please consider donating if you feel you got any benefit out of this. Also, please visit my website, holisticlifestyleguide.com. And on there, you will get freebies when you sign up for my email list. I've got a lot of freebies. I've got a mini course. I've got some ebooks. I have a spirituality ebook. I have printables. So check that out if you're interested in learning more and diving deeper into all of the things that I talk about. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope to have you on board for the next episode.